Hi, I'm Chase Young from the Mommy Rebellion, and here's another video podcast. Today, I am with Katie Gall from Keeping It Real with Katie, and she is a health voice and life coach. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
We are good. This
Yeah,
is a baby video today. We're gonna have
this
fun.
is a baby video today. That's true. It's hard to do things without babies when they're this young.
So mine is just turned 8 months old, and she was born in February of 2020. So I think we were technically in a global pandemic. We just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, yeah,
And baby Malcolm, he came this
yeah,
summer, right?
yeah. July 31st. We came out about 3 weeks early. So we were solidly into pandemic at that point. And sort of just like continually being updated. Oh, excuse you. About what that meant for being
Yeah.
a pregnant person during a pandemic and having a baby in a hospital and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Was your husband allowed to be there? Because I know that different
Yeah,
hospitals have had different rules.
yeah. So we delivered at Maine Medical, which luckily was relatively low as far as
Yeah.
cases were concerned. And he was allowed. I was allowed one support person.
Mm-hmm.
And that support person, ideally, they weren't going to arrest him or anything if he didn't follow this rule. But ideally, he came in when I came in. And once he left, he stayed gone until
Okay.
they had to pick me up, just to limit going in and out.
Yeah.
Um, he was not required to, but he got tested beforehand just so that he felt good about being there.
Yep.
I was required to get tested beforehand. Oh,
Yep.
buddy, what? So everything felt really safe.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that we were in a pandemic, but it was definitely weird overall because my parents couldn't come, his parents couldn't come. Yeah, we couldn't have any other visitors. But I was a C-section, and because they didn't really want you around more than you had to be, I got out in 2 days. That was nice.
Did that feel supportive for you?
It did, because they were very clear about we feel like you are doing very well. I felt like I was doing very well as well. You're doing really well. If you want to go home, we would be fine with that.
Okay.
If you feel like you need more support and you want to stay another night, you can stay.
Okay.
So they were very they weren't kicking me out or anything like that. It was just, I'm gonna adjust to record it. It was just kind of they probably knew that I didn't really want to stay longer than I had to either, and so I had been hoping that I would be able to go home early.
Well, and this is number 2, so you're not completely new to this.
Right. This is number 2, and number 1 was so traumatic that this entire thing, it's funny. You don't expect the baby that's born during the pandemic to be the one that you're like, fine, I got this. That's easy. Because my first, because your people won't know this, my first was born 2 months early, very much as an emergency C-section, and ended up staying in the NICU for 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks. So it's just funny to me that pandemic, I'm like, oh yeah, we just stay home. That's fine. We got this.
Yeah, granted, this is my 5th one, so I have some skills, but I have not had any, I've not worried about her,
Yeah.
We did the first couple of visits. We went up to about 2 months when we found out she had bronchiolitis, which was right before Maine shut down. It was about March 10th. And bronchiolitis, when they're that little, is concerning because their airways are so small and they're obligate nose breathers at that point. So we had a rough week of suctioning getting that nose Frida that you actually like use your mouth.
Yeah.
You probably are aware of that. We've never met that before.
I've never used it because we were just given the bulbs, and so we used the bulbs, and I know that they're not.
We ended up going back and forth between them. We were having to suction her so much, and it got to the point where she just was screaming at us about it.
Yeah,
But
they don't like it.
they don't, and it was no fun. And so we stopped seeing people pretty much after that appointment. Like I remember running to the drugstore on the way home from that doctor's appointment to get that nose feeder, and then we pretty much were in lockdown from then on.
Yeah.
But like I've been okay with not taking her to the pediatrician other than that. She's seen her midwife a couple of times. I know she's gaining weight.
Yeah.
And and right now, 'cause one of my other girls needed to go and I had to change her appointment because I'm not allowed to bring M with me. Like I'm only allowed a
Yeah.
parent and that child. So my husband's got to take her next week when he's off.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we can do it with the little one. You know, I don't. They were
We're in
like,
a
we
similar boat.
understand it's hard to get a babysitter, and I'm thinking, I'm not getting a babysitter.
Well, and to me, that entire like mentality is like that's just bringing someone else into the mix.
Exactly.
You're not like if we're all supposed to. We've been talking about it as our pod, like the people that we're comfortable around, right? We're supposed to be staying within our pod.
Yeah.
But some of those people in your pod, if you're like outside of the family, if there's outside of the family people, they're not necessarily people that you would ask to babysit.
Exactly.
Meaning if the family's not available, I'm not going to get a babysitter.
And yeah, when I took them to the dentist, because we needed to go to the dentist, and I had the baby, everybody got their temperature checked, and it was all fine, you know, and we signed a waiver that if anybody had a positive test within the next 14 days, we would let the dental office know. And then I kind of, didn't let my kids go seeing other people, for a little while after that, in case they did pick something up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the doctor's office is like, no, only the patient and a parent.
And the parent. Yeah.
So most of my kids are not going this year because they're healthy, and you only need to go every other year if you've got healthy kids anyway. And
yeah, most of them are old enough for the most part. Yeah. We are still doing ours, but I do have, my mom actually retired this year, which was like frankly a crap way to have to retire, because she was working in the school system, and so all of that shut down, and she was suddenly trying to do her last few months all virtual, and it's a crap way to have to retire, but it means that I have her. So it does mean that like with doctor's appointments and stuff, me and Finn, my older child, we're gonna go get our flu shots next week, and Mal can stay with my parents, and we're gonna make it work. But it is, the trickier thing to me for us right now is Finn got sick back in end of February, early March. Which was confirmed flu. It wasn't COVID. But he got sick, and then things started shutting down, but our daycare never shut down because they were open for essential personnel. My husband is technically considered essential personnel. So he got sick. They wouldn't let anyone who had any sort of symptoms in, which was the right thing to do. I was still trying to work at the time because we weren't sure, but I had gone all virtual with my voice lessons and coaching and everything. I was still trying to work. So he ended up staying home for like 2 weeks with like a stuffy nose, basically, because he couldn't have any symptoms. And then we tried sending him back, but then all of the numbers had gone up and we were stressed about that. So we took him back out. So he's kind of had this back and forth, spending tons of time with mommy and daddy / namely mommy. And then going back to daycare. And so what's been trickiest for us is just his like dealing with his little emotions of having to deal with like having so much just mommy and daddy time before Mal came. And then Mal comes and you get like almost not no mommy time,
But it's very different.
But it's very different when you're having to breastfeed every 2 hours.
Yeah, it's very different. And he probably won't remember this transition because he's young enough, but that doesn't mean it isn't a transition.
Right. And then in New Hampshire, numbers went down enough that he went back to daycare, which has been really good overall. But now he's at the 2 to 3 month mark of having Mal home. And so there's like this whole new resurgence of like, he hasn't directly said bring him back to the hospital, but I can kind of tell that he's like realizing that Mal is staying.
Yeah. My kids do it at 3 weeks, and then we had a little bit of a resurgence when she was 6 months old, and we're gonna, I think, especially with C, who's turning 7 and hasn't, she's losing her position as the youngest. She's lost her position as the youngest. That once we really start wrecking things, I mean, we already have arguments about the Duplos that had been put away for over a year that came back out when Em started sitting up and being able to play. But we have cool Duplos. We've got swings and toilets and sinks, and you build a house. And for years, my kids would build their dollhouse and then play in it. And so all of this has come back, and so they all want to play with it. But C is really like, this is my house. Nobody gets to touch it. She's really protective about it. And after 2 or 3 days, it's kind of like, no, it's time to build a new one. Like, you got it. And I'm not a great mom if no one is around and Em wants to play. I just plump her down in front of whatever Duplos are on the floor and have at it. Kid, like, I'm like, these are technically hers anyway, so move on, people.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the other thing with Finn. We started like unearthing all of the stuff that was in storage that like, we saved all of Finn's clothes for the most part, unless it was completely destroyed, and we saved toys and all of those things. And like when they started coming back out, Finn was like, oh yeah, these are for Mal, but I get to play with them.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, you do, because Mal can't really
yet. But
yes, but I'm gonna keep reminding you that these are now Mal's.
I remember so my first 2 are almost exactly 2 years apart, and I remember when the first time they played, I mean, it was parallel play, but the first time they played without needing me for like 10 minutes, and I was like, oh my God, you mean I can breathe again? Because they were just, and I think they were like 3 and 1 before that happened.
Yeah.
And it was literally for like 10 minutes at a time, and then I would have to get involved again, but it was still like,
right. I feel
so nice.
Like, I remember that with Finn too, where like there was suddenly, it's fairly recent too, there's suddenly been like times where it's like, oh, I can just let you do a thing, and I need to be in the general area, but like you can play and I can wash dishes. Washing dishes has never been sexier.
It is. Yeah. I was really surprised this time around. Someone gave us a pack and play, and we'd never really used them before, but it came with like that changing table, which was a good height, because we didn't have, we've since gotten a changing table off the side of the road that was just attached onto a normal dresser, so it's actually a little higher, a little better height, but that worked really well with her for probably till she was about 6-7 months old. Now she doesn't want to be in it because it's got to be lowered, and she's like, this feels like a cage. I'd rather just sit on the floor and play with the stuff. But I was really, 5th child, I was surprised there was something new, but
that's fair. I'm seeing, it's interesting to see the new stuff that's out now that's supposed to like make your life better as a mom. And the first time around, you don't know any better, and so you're like, ooh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And the amount of things that like either got thrown out, given away, not used, just were total crap. And this time around, I'm like, I'm not buying anything new. You get nothing.
Exactly. Well, this wasn't new for us. This was just, someone my husband worked with didn't need it, so they
Yeah.
passed it over to us, and we'll pass it on again when we're done with it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the cats have been enjoying it, though. They think it's a great place to sleep.
That's funny. Did you ever have problems with your cats with babies?
We haven't. We had gotten, so funny story. We had gotten, funny story. So Rob went to New Zealand by himself after we'd
Mm-hmm.
been married for about 3 years to see his grandmother before she passed away. And he came back and decided he wanted to start a family. And we tried and nothing happened. And we were both in retail and we were like, okay, fine, we'll think about it in about 9 months. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're retail, it's Christmas. So of course we managed somehow
Yeah. Yeah.
that month to get pregnant. But in the meantime, when we had kind of decided we were going to put off starting a family for about 9 months or so, we had gotten kittens ordered because I've got cat allergies. We found a breeder who had Siberian forest cats who didn't bother my allergies. We went down, she had like 9 cats. We were there for a couple hours. I was fine. So we
Mm-hmm.
ordered a couple of her kittens and they came up like, I want to say like the 2nd of January, and we found out like the 5th or 6th of January I was pregnant. So kittens and a
Yep.
pregnant mom, that was fun. Um,
Yep.
so they
We got
didn't,
a puppy when I was pregnant with Finn.
yeah.
That was the worst choice.
I wondered
He's
at
a
the
great
time, but
dog,
I wasn't
that was
going to
the worst
judge,
choice.
but Well,
Yeah.
poor Rob, because he had to take over litter box duties immediately because you can't do that when
Yeah,
you're
'cause you're not
pregnant,
supposed to do it.
Um, so so those cats didn't know any different, and we have really cute photos of them like in the baby swing, or
Oh, that is
they
cute.
tried out all of her stuff, the car seat, everything before she was born. Even a couple of the outfits Rob managed to wrinkle them because we didn't have
That's
kids.
awesome.
Um, and so I really haven't had issues with cats. Now, the 3 cats that we have now, none of them, well, one of them had been around because she'd been a friend's cat that was given to us when the friend found out she was allergic. But they'd had that cat for 5, 6, 7 years. And she'd had a baby in that amount of time. So she's probably been around babies before, but the other 2, to our knowledge, hasn't.
Yeah.
And they've by and large been fine. I mean, Mittens, the stupid cat that showed up in our yard last here, she's actually here. Showed up in our yard
No.
last summer when Rob was in India and I was too tired to fight and nobody was missing a cat. Yeah,
They're cute.
we weren't sure about her, but she's been fine. I mean, but I was pregnant already, so
Yeah, yeah. Well, with Finn, we had no problems with
yeah.
our cat Bailey. And
Yeah.
when we had Bailey at the time. Bailey's a super chill cat. But this time around, what? This time around, all of the doctors warned us. We were like getting ready for the dogs because for the dogs it was kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
But for the cat, we weren't even thinking about the cat, and everyone was like, "Oh no, the cat's gonna get jealous. You need to look out for the cat." So the cat's no longer allowed in our bedroom because he jumped into the pack and play where he sleeps a lot of the time at one point, and like they were telling me that like the cat will swipe at him and things like that, and I'm
We
like,
haven't had any
no.
issues. I mean, I watch, we watch them together, but
Yeah.
I would say that the cats are willing to put up with more mauling from the baby than they will from anybody else, and I think it's because they know she doesn't have control yet,
Yeah, they know it's a baby.
Yeah.
Are they girl cats or boy cats or both?
They all are girl cats, but I've had I mean, the kittens that we had with Kaylee and Lorelai were both boy cats. And even the cat that we had with like Bella and Clara, they were all boy cats, and we didn't really ever have any problems. None of the cats are big bed sleepers, or really for us. Like they'll sleep on the kids' beds, but the older kids' beds, but they're not really like in our room that much anyway. So
oh yeah,
that wasn't so
our
much of
cat
an
slept with
issue.
us.
But
yeah, our cat liked to walk on our heads at night. So I'm okay being without that, frankly.
Yeah. You don't want that when you're already getting up every 2 hours for nursing. Like,
That is true. That is true. Though I'm not actually getting up every 2 hours anymore, which is exciting.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic thing. He actually gave me a full 6 hours, not last night, but the night before. Last night he did not give me a full 6 hours.
Well, that's okay. It happened once.
Yeah.
That means it'll eventually happen again.
Yep, it will.
Yeah,
It
this
will.
one was she was not as bad as Bella. That was every 2 hours, like her first couple of weeks, and I just cried because the other ones would at least sleep like a 4-hour section in the middle of the night from like
Yeah.
birth. Bella
Mhm.
didn't, and I remember her being, and we couldn't figure out the lying down and nursing thing, and I remember just
That's a
being
hard
in
one.
tears at like 4 a.m. because I'd seen 4 a.m. again, and and Rob was working nights at that point and didn't have any paternity leave or anything, and so that was really hard, and M was not quite that bad, but it still was, I think it was over a month before she was like giving me good solid sleep and then at night, and now like her naps are not predictable, but she
Mhm.
sleeps through the night except when she's teething, and I'm okay with that. I'm like, we can deal with unpredictable naps if you're sleeping through the night. Like it is okay. It is okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, he's I mean, significantly younger than her,
Yeah,
but like definitely unpredictable naps. Wakes me up like 2 times a night, 2 to 3.
it's not too
But
bad.
like again, I have Finn as a comparison, and
Yeah,
Finn would not he wouldn't nurse.
yeah,
And he slept terribly for the first 4 to 6 months.
yeah,
He was waking up like a newborn still.
yeah.
And because I was
Well, because
helping
he was still a newborn.
he
Yeah,
was very much still a newborn. But in addition to that, I was trying to get him as much breast milk as possible, even though he wouldn't nurse. So nobody got, like in that case, usually you can trade on and off with
hmm
your spouse, like someone can get up and bottle feed. But if he got up, I had to get up and pump just to
hmm
make sure that there was enough.
yeah,
um
yeah.
so it was rough. It was rough. So like having to wake up 2 times at this point, I'm like, we're good.
We got this. We're
I
good.
can do this for a little while.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, I can do this for a little while. It's
Now
okay.
you knew well, you didn't know going into being pregnant, but you knew before he was born that you were going to be in the middle of a pandemic, whereas M came
Yes.
right before we really hit pandemic. So
Yes.
all of my plans for the 4th trimester pretty much didn't happen. I had plans with girlfriends where they were going to just come and take me and the baby, and we were going to go get coffee, or
Mhm.
I was going to do, and I probably could have still done virtual calls with girlfriends. I was just too tired. I'll be
Well,
honest. I was
and
just,
like the Zoom
yeah,
fatigue is real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, she's on social media a lot more than originally intended because she's got like all my local friends who don't get to see her, like miss her.
Yeah.
So I put up, those cute videos, or I guess sometimes maybe they're not cute, but I put the videos up regularly because they're not actually getting to see her.
Yeah.
Whereas normally, there'd have been hands outside of my family to hold this child.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We honestly, I think for me, the pan for our family, the pandemic has been a little bit of a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a surprise blessing. Just in the sense that like Kevin works full time and is working on his master's degree,
hmm So he's
and I'm a
busy.
Capricorn. So,
Yeah. Yep. Capricorn
so
here too.
I'm a worker. I'm a worker. And so being forced to not has been really nice,
Yeah.
actually. And so like 4th trimester plans, I'm as I'll talk about a little bit more later. Like I've got like a launch coming up and some stuff coming up, but it's felt very much like I can ease back into
Yep.
things
hmm
rather than first time around, which, and I will say, like, I had plenty of people try to inform me otherwise last time around. But last time
Yeah,
around, I was like,
myself
6 weeks,
including,
and I'm
I think.
starting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, last time around, I was determined to start working 6 weeks out, because in my head, like, you get 6 weeks maternity leave in this country, that's enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big
No,
lies.
no,
Big
no.
lies.
Big lies.
Country says.
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's felt really nice to just have time and space, and to just, I would like to be seeing my people more,
Yeah.
absolutely. But also to feel like zero guilt about the fact that I'm just sitting on my butt for hours watching Bones, because I don't feel safe sending my super
Mm-hmm.
little one to daycare. My mom is already doing what she can as far as childcare is concerned, and I can't do anything if I have him right
Yeah.
now, because
Yeah.
he's
He's that
predominantly
age.
breastfeeding. He's
Yep.
at that age where,
Yep.
like, I can baby wear him, but only if he's sated enough.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
especially, because some of my kids I've gotten the nursing while baby wearing to work, and others of my children I haven't. The current one doesn't really nurse while I'm moving. It just
I can't
doesn't
do
work
it
for us.
while I'm moving. I can do it if I'm like trying to eat a meal,
Yep.
like out or something. If he's on me,
Mm-hmm.
we can figure it out that way. I just have to hold my boob in place, and, like, what's the point
Yep.
then?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. They do
Yeah.
eventually get bigger, and you don't have to do that quite as much. But
Yeah, I know, because he can help himself a little bit more.
yeah,
But
I was grateful when this one got to that point, because I felt like I had to hold my boob with this one more
yeah.
than I remember on some of the other ones. She was my second smallest baby, so that might be it too. I had babies
Mm.
that were over a pound heavier than her most recently. So, you know,
Oh yeah.
that makes a little bit of difference too. For us, the real blessing has been that Rob was home for paternity leave, and then went back to work from home. So he has been here
Yes.
this whole time. And we have this concept of default parents. So I was the one that worked out of the house for the first two. And so they just tended, dad is just always there kind of parent. And then it was the
Yeah.
opposite for the other two. And so we kind of think that with Em, that both of us are her default parent, because she will like yesterday, she took her nap at a weird time and slept through his break, and then his lunch ended up being really late. And by the time he went to lunch, she was just like, "Give me, Dad!" Like she was like he'd been gone all day. Give me, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she notices when he
That's
doesn't
funny.
do things
That's
on
funny.
time, and she's been noticing that since pretty much the first couple of weeks he went back, when she was what, 2 3 months old at that point. So she's been able to
Oh,
notice when he doesn't show up on
interesting.
time. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Mal is not doing that.
Yeah.
Though that's about that the
Yeah.
time period where she started is
Yeah.
where he is right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. We kind of have a default parent thing too. It's just that I'm almost always the default parent.
Well, it usually is the mom, and we might not have noticed this if it hadn't been the opposite for the first two. If he hadn't been the stay-at-home
Yeah.
parent, we might not have ever figured this out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I think what we're what one of the things that the pandemic has really hit home more than just by having a child is gender roles
Yeah.
within the house. Like, if we don't have childcare,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one that makes sense to stay home. I'm the boobs. I make
Yep.
less because I've been the one that's had to, like,
Put things
adjust
on
more.
hold. Yep.
Yeah. Like, it's really interesting. No matter how much you try to be neutral in a couple, you're just not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not holding equal weights. It doesn't mean that, like, one is working less than the other, but you're not holding equal weights.
Have you seen that concept of even if your partner is doing the equal amount of work, if you're still the person who's remembering that all the stuff has to get done,
emotional workload.
Yeah, that you're actually holding more. So that's the thing that we've been kind of struggling with here, because as my girls get older, we expect them to do more stuff, help out,
Yep.
do more stuff. And it's a struggle because someone still has to remind them. Like, they're not at the point necessarily developmentally where they'll remember. And that's a struggle. I don't want to do it for them, but the amount of energy I spend, and my husband spends it too, to a certain extent, reminding them multiple times to do the thing that we asked them to do already. It's hard.
Yeah, I end up doing that a little bit with my husband sometimes too. That being said, I do know that the thing that I do keep in mind is, like, I see how much he's working, you know, and I know that when he's done with his master's degree, it's my turn. But we've definitely run into that where, like, the point is to take it off of my plate completely.
Yeah. So, like, I shouldn't even have to think about it.
I shouldn't even have to think about it. And we've gotten to that place with dishes in our house, which is super helpful because it means that I can do all the cooking that I want and I don't have to worry about the other half of it.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about having the energy to do the dishes, which when you're breastfeeding every 2 hours is not there.
Yeah, no. But we tried to do it with laundry at one point too. And it's less of an issue right now, but we tried to do it with laundry at one point too, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And there was just a point where it was like, if I have to remind you this many times, it costs less time and I have clothing if I just do it myself.
Yeah.
But it's tricky when you
I just don't take that shortcut with the kids because I don't want them to be bad roommates in the future. Like, I don't want them to, like, not know how to do this stuff. So it's like, no, you've got to invest the time and then keep trying to figure out what works best for that kid at this moment to remember to do their stuff.
Yeah. My thought just keeps being, like, I want my kids to be the best spouse that they can be. Like, I don't want, I'm raising 2 boys.
Yeah.
You know, I'm raising 2 white boys in a society that's gonna give them
everything.
Give them everything.
They have the most privilege.
Else, right? And so just, like, keeping in mind that, like, yes, society is setting you up to succeed more so in your career than any other person, but at the end of the day, you still need clean underwear. So deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if they want to have happiness, they need to treat the people that they're with well.
Right.
You know, exactly. Which is, you know, a lot of times helping to keep that space clean, whatever space it is that you're coexisting in. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, and the other thing that we're doing with Finn, and I think we're doing well with it actually, is making sure that, like, he feels ownership over his own body.
Yeah.
And he feels like his emotions are allowed. And we'll be doing this with Mal when he's old enough, obviously.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm putting so much focus on that is because I feel like if he understands that he has ownership over his own body, then he will treat women the same way. If it's women that he's interested in, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like anybody else, they have ownership over their own body as well, and your emotions are valid.
Yep.
And that is true of everybody in the world, not just you.
Yep. Yeah. And then the thing that you'll probably want to bring in as your boys get older is, you know, your brother's body is his. You need to ask first. Like, we spend a lot of time with body autonomy. You need to ask. No one has to give a hug who doesn't want to give a hug, or
and we already,
a high five or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we already do that with Kevin and I, because there's things that, like for example, I don't like being tickled. Finn likes tickling, but Finn doesn't always like being tickled either. Yeah. And so, like, that teaching moment of, like, that's not something that feels good. Like, I understand it's fun for you, but that doesn't feel good for me.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So we are already starting that, and it will happen with little brother. And the hope is that Yeah, translates
Yeah.
over to other people, you know. But he's very cute. He really enjoys helping with laundry right now.
Yep.
Right now, we'll see.
Yep.
Helping with laundry. He really enjoys helping to sweep and vacuum, and he has his own little toy vacuum that actually weirdly matches ours.
That
Like
is
we
weird.
just like
That was
totally
rough.
like we just happened to my cousin happened to have one for her little girl, and I was like, that is literally our vacuum. Same company, same brand, same everything. So he has his own little mini version of when I vacuum.
I love the stage. There's a little while where they absolutely love cleaning, and I love that stage. Unfortunately, something switches off when they hit adolescence. Becomes a lot harder. There's something, and it's a true thing. I've read books with neuroscience. It is a true thing that my 6, 7, 8-year-olds remember things better than my preteens. There's stuff going on in their brain that make that be true.
Oh
But
yeah,
it is frustrating. It is frustrating even knowing that.
yeah. Well, I can remember being a preteen / teenager, and there's just like there is so much social crap going on.
Even when there's not social crap, there's just stuff going on in their heads.
Well,
It just takes up space.
really
Yeah.
what I mean when I say social crap, I more mean like figuring out where you fit into society.
Mm-hmm.
And like within the family unit, and like different types of really big emotions are coming up randomly for no reason sometimes. Yeah. So I'm sure. I don't know that I was necessarily forgetful. I'm sure I was forgetful, but like I know that I was not easy. I wasn't the easiest at that point.
I don't think any kid is, but you get them through it just like you get them through toddlerhood,
Right. Yeah, that's true. How are your kids doing with the pandemic overall?
I mean, for my introverts, it's great. For my more extroverted kids, it's a little bit harder. They miss.
That's me.
I mean, we've got a pod, so that helps, but they miss like C really loves in-person Girl Scout and does not like virtual. Virtual does not work awesome for her. But we're prepared to go back to that, at least on snow days. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, they got a new sister and they went into a pandemic all at the same time. I know my eldest has gotten closer to one of her friends because they've chatted and they've done, face chats more, at least up into the summer until she started working. And now it's a little harder for them to find time with her virtual school schedule and things like that. But she didn't have a friend that like she chatted with or messaged with before that, so that's been kind of fun.
That's cool.
But they don't understand why people can't just make safe choices. I mean, that's like a constant conversation in my head.
Why people can't just make safe
and
choices.
Why can't people understand simple science and these kinds of things, because they're granddaughters of an immunologist. I'm a daughter of a immunologist, microbiologist, and we listen to This Week in Virology fairly regularly in this house. So they're like, I don't get why. Here, can you burp her, please? Please? I don't get why people can't do this. And that gets really difficult, especially when they're like, I don't understand why this has to be political. And I don't have answers,
No.
That's the hard bit about parenting, is that the older your kids get, the fewer answers you have for them. And it makes it hard,
Yeah, I think as I've gotten older and paid more and more attention to politics, the thing that I am learning more and more is that as much as I might see a situation as relatively black and white, someone else just doesn't. And it's frankly just because they have different priorities than me.
Yeah.
And
politics is being run with forms of media that didn't exist before. And so they're going to push the limits and the boundaries of those forms of media as much as they can. Politics changed when they were first able to, televise or even have on radio the conventions. That really changed things. And so I think social media is also really changing politics, and we're just watching it in real time.
And it's tough. I guess I shouldn't say this exactly, but at the moment, I'm glad I don't have to fully explain things to my child. Like, he's at that age where I tell him a thing is true and he's like, oh, okay. And then he does it. Yeah. Like wearing a mask in a store. It took him a little while because he didn't want to at first, but like he gets to like, oh, everyone else is doing it. This is just what we do.
Yep. It will be really interesting. So, our babies are only seeing people with masks on, and a lot of people have been super apologetic about, she can't see me smile, and she can tell if you're smiling or not, okay? Your tone of voice, your body language, your eye crinkles, she can totally tell. It will be interesting if we're still having to wear masks when she's over 2, and I will have to introduce her to putting her own mask on.
Yeah, it's a thing. Get
I
ready
know.
to bribe.
I know. And also you can't come in. I'm lucky in that we have older sisters, so I almost always have someone who can sit in the car with you. If you can't do this, then you can't come in.
Yep. That's very true. You are lucky in that way.
I know. I am. I totally am. And I'm grateful for that. But
granted, at one point it means
I'm also hoping that we all keep these curbside deliveries and other options, so that for the moms who don't have that option, there's at least that option.
Well, and I do think that I think there's a lot of perks that could come of this to make things better for people who work from home, or for mothers who, their kid gets sick and so they can't go into work. Well, you can work remotely. Awesome. Like we're used to that now. I'm really excited for my business because snow days will not exist anymore.
Exactly.
I don't have to lose an entire day of income.
which will be great. You may also find that you need more vacation time because you were used to that mental break of snow days.
Right.
Yeah. Even though Dad turned off the TV for some reason. Probably.
It'll also depend. It'll also depend on Finn's daycare.
Yeah.
Or on the kids' daycare. Like, do I actually have childcare for the day?
Yeah.
If I don't have childcare, then it's kind of no.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we're looking forward to in my Girl Scout troop that we can so we had a really bad windstorm last week and we were able to just meet virtually because everybody was used to it instead of just canceling and missing the meeting completely.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm grateful that one of the leader meetings, you can either go in person or go virtually. And so I don't have to drive half an hour tonight. I can just show up virtually. It takes less time away from my family.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm hoping is that there's more of this. Because, I think what I've been hearing from families, not necessarily from people who are, living alone, but from families is ooh, I like being around them, actually. And, there's certainly, times when you're going insane.
Always.
Yeah. But it's nice to just know that the other person's there and they're not just, gone for 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been chatting for a while, so we should probably wrap this up. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Keeping It Real Katie. You can find me on Facebook, Keeping It Real with Katie Gall. You can go to my website, www.keepingitrealkatie.com. And for the next few days, actually, I don't know when this is going up. I'm realizing
this could go up as early as next week if you want it to.
Okay, well, that's okay. So for the next few days, I'm doing a bunch of lives that are going to be all about thriving in the spotlight. I work with creative professionals predominantly, to help them feel freaking awesome in their bodies so that they can shine wherever they need to shine. And so I'm doing a bunch of free lives with a bunch of information about how to do that, which is cool. And then come beginning of November, I have an entire program that is all about that called Keeping It Balanced. So if people want to follow me on social media, head over to my website, as I said, and sign up for my newsletter. You can get information all about that and how to work with me.
Sounds awesome. I know.
And there won't be a baby when we do that.
Wow, that might make some people sad. I know when my girls worked with you that they had a great time and that you were amazing. So
yeah, they were a lot of fun. They were cute. I still like think very fondly on all of the duck songs that I created.
Well,
those were
yeah,
awesome.
that was amazing.